Welcome back, everyone, to Watcher of All Things. My name is Kiki. This is my podcast where I talk movies, TV shows, and all things entertainment. And today is episode 12. Wow. We are talking Monkey Man. Dev Patel's directorial debut on feature film, at least. I don't know if he's ever done commercials or anything. I hope you all had an amazing Easter. I did. I ate my weight in chocolate eggs and stuff like that. I watched lots of good stuff. It was the second last Sunday with Curb Your Enthusiasm. I was visiting my brother and my future sister-in-law and all my family, and it was good. It was a good family weekend, and now I'm back home, back into my normal routine, and ready for another good episode today. It was a good week overall. I mean, work was good, nice and busy as always. Actually, one of my friends defended her thesis this week, so congratulations to her. Really nailed it, and she was flawless during her defense, and mine's coming up soon, and watching hers, I made myself absolutely petrified, so I'm now dreading my defense. But she was absolutely great, and I was super proud as a friend of hers to be watching it. Just the way she spoke was phenomenal, and all the committee of professors that was watching absolutely loved it, and it was totally deserved. She put really great work into that, so quick congratulations to her. I am now dreading mine and mentally preparing for mine, which is probably end of this month or early May. Yeah, that was actually the first defense I've ever watched, so that's kind of the mental stage of my life that I'm at right now, is just dreading a certain day that's going to be coming up. But other than that, watched lots of good stuff this week. Went to the movies late last night to see Monkey Man. I went to the 9:30 show. It was me and like 6 other dudes all just sitting randomly around the theater, everybody buying their tickets as far away from other people as they could. But for a 9:30 show, at least a few people were there, and it wasn't just me that was watching Monkey Man. Lots of news to get into. Let's get right into it. The first big piece of news for all the Dune heads like me that are anticipating the next one, and also all the Denis Villeneuve heads that are excited for his next project. It was confirmed this week that Denis Villeneuve and Legendary are developing Dune 3 and Nuclear War, a scenario film adaptations. So Denis Villeneuve is in discussion to reunite with Legendary, the production company that he's working with, for an adaptation of Annie Jacobson's Pulitzer Prize finalist, Nuclear War, a scenario. And actually, it's so weird that this news came out, because I was watching Office Hours Live with Tim Heidecker, and he had just recommended the book on the podcasts. Then like an hour later, the news broke that Denis Villeneuve is going to be adapting this movie. So yeah, really cool. Very excited for that. But also the bigger news for me is that Dune Part 3, or not Part 3, but Dune 3 in whatever way it looks, whether it is just a straight adaptation of Dune Messiah, or if he's going to have a new story between Part 2 and Messiah. But everyone has said Dune Messiah, so I'm just going to assume it is Dune Messiah, which I've been really stuck recently thinking, do I want to read the Dune books? Do I want to just like go ahead and read all the books? Like, who cares if I'm spoiling the movies? And today I officially committed. I bought Dune Messiah and the third one, which is Children of Dune. I'm just going to read them, whatever. I'm 400 pages into Dune and I love it. I'm going to try and hit 500 or 550, 600 this weekend if I can get a few hours in. So yeah, I've been loving that. But this is really great news that a lot of people were under the impression that Dune Part 3 was going to be like a long time away, like many years away, maybe, 6 or 7, but it looks like it's in development. I know he had finished the script recently because he had said it himself. Hans Zimmer had already started working on the music for Dune Part 3, so this is really awesome. I'm really excited for this. As for Nuclear War, a scenario, the book was just released on March 26th, and Jacobson's book explores a ticking clock scenario about what would happen in the event of a nuclear war, based on dozens of exclusive new interviews with military and civilian experts who built the weapons and have been privy to the response plans and have been responsible for those decisions, should they have needed to be made. Interesting subject matter. It is interesting that he's tackling 2 films with nuclear weapons or nuclear warfare after Dune Part 2, which involved atomics. I'm very much looking forward to both of these. I'm not sure what we're going to get first, because I was under the impression that Denis Villeneuve is working on, he has 4 projects in development, and I'm pretty sure the one that was unnamed was the Nuclear War adaptation. Dune Part 3, I think most people knew about, that Part 3 was definitely going to happen, although he did say a couple weeks ago, I'm only going to make Part 3 if I think it can be better than Part 2, or pardon me, I keep saying Dune 3 and Dune Part 3, but you guys know what I mean, the third Dune film that he's going to make. we'll see what Dune 3 looks like, if it's just a straight adaptation of Dune Messiah, which is only like 300 pages compared to, almost 800 pages in Dune and 600 something pages in Children of Dune. So we'll see how it looks, if he's going to add a bunch of new material or he's going to really just kind of keep the core foundation of the book and adapt it. As I'm reading Dune, I really have been enjoying and appreciating Denis Villeneuve's adaptation even more of it versus David Lynch's, especially because David Lynch's is so choppy. When you read the book, you realize how much he's kind of fast forwarding and just like throwing stuff in. But I think Denis Villeneuve kind of bridges the gaps very well. But anyways, let's get into some other news. It looks like Alex Garland, whose Civil War movie we are seeing next week, and that'll be next week's episode. So he has been talking about recently that he's like actually wanting to retire from filmmaking, and I think it was in like summer or something like that he just said he's straight up like out of love with filmmaking. I posted on my Instagram about it, and he's kind of stepped back about not loving the whole filmmaking thing, but he's kind of clarified that like he doesn't see himself directing anything in the future, but that was as far as it goes. I think he's still going to be writing and still maybe producing films, but he said, I'm in a very similar state as to when he said he's fallen in love with filmmaking. He said, I'm not planning to direct again in the foreseeable future. That's just directing. What he's really saying is, what I said is, I'm going to take a break from directing for the foreseeable future. How that could get extrapolated as what pride I do or do not feel in this movie, I just don't see the connecting thread. I said I'm going to stop directing for the foreseeable future. Why would a statement like that be taken and picked over or interpreted to that degree? There's something weird happening there. There's something strange about that. It's a general strangeness that exists to do with what form public statements take and how they're used and how words are interpreted or read. So I think he's become a little bit frustrated by the filmmaking process recently, and I mean, I'm pretty sure he was just kind of a writer before, and then Ex Machina maybe was his first like big directing gig, because he's written a few different movies that have been been directed by other great directors like Danny Boyle. We'll see what roles or what job he kind of moves into. Is he just going to be writing again? I hope we see Alex Garland kind of continue in the industry, because I think he has a really great eye for film, and I've really enjoyed his projects. Men, not so much. That one was interesting, but honestly, I barely remember half of it. I feel like I want to rewatch it, because I don't know, I feel like I didn't give it a good chance when I was watching it. I was kind of going into it with negative feelings already because I had seen the trailer so many times, but that's his most recent A24 one. Civil War looks really great, and I'm like totally into what he's doing with this whole American Civil War movie. So I'm really excited for that. And here comes the dog. Here comes Gracie coming downstairs. Anything you want to say to the podcast, Gracie? Here. Okay, allow me to translate what Gracie has just said there. She said, while I agree with Alex Garland's take that filmmaking is a love-hate relationship, I really think that he should stay on as a writer because he has a great voice for film. Oh, sorry, that's not what you said? Okay, well, she said basically that, he's a great writer and he has made a successful novel before, so maybe go back to novel writing. Sorry, Gracie, it's just, I need to brush up on my dog English translation. But yeah, anyways, Alex Garland, we'll see. I think Civil War looks really great. Maybe he'll just be a writer for a while, and that's absolutely fine. A lot of writer-directors like to just change it up with what they're doing, and maybe he's just kind of tired of the process of directing. I Think You Should Leave fans, big news and Detroiters. Tim Robinson and Zach Kanine comedy The Chair Company gets HBO pilot order. Adam McKay producing. HBO has given the green light to The Chair Company, a half-hour comedy pilot starring Tim Robinson. The project, from Robinson and his writing partner Zach Kanine, is also exclusively produced by Adam McKay and Todd Schulman for Hyper Object Industries. Basically, the show itself, in The Chair Company, after an embarrassing incident at work, a man, played by Tim Robinson, finds himself investigating a far-reaching conspiracy. So it basically just sounds like an I Think You Should Leave sketch, kind of just stretched out into an entire series, which I absolutely love, because the thing I love about I Think You Should Leave is every time, or most sketches, it's Tim Robinson being embarrassed, and the whole point of the show is like, in this situation you should just really walk away and you should just leave, but he doubles down every time. So I'd love a show where every episode is just taking an embarrassing thing and him just kind of stepping into it and just investigating further and further. So I'm excited for this. I love Tim Robinson. I love every interview he does. I've watched literally everything he's done. Another piece of news, it looks like Matrix 5 is in the works with Drew Goddard as director, Lana Wachowski is executive producer. So it broke this week that Warner Brothers is going back to The Matrix. The studio announced that a fifth Matrix movie is in development. It'll be the first installment without Lana or Lily Wachowski as directors. Instead, the Martian screenwriter Drew Goddard will handle the filmmaking duties. He will also write the script and produce with his partner at Goddard Textiles, Sarah Esberg. Lana Wachowski, who helmed the most recent Matrix installment, 2021's Resurrections, is attached as an executive producer. So that came from Variety, who broke the story this week. Another Matrix movie is, man, I mean, it's another IP, but like, do people really care about the Matrix anymore? Like, that was the aesthetic of those movies is very 90s and early 2000s, but like, have we moved on as a society from the Matrix in totality? I mean, there was that Planet of the Bass, it wasn't like a Eurovision song, but the Planet of the Bass song was kind of very Matrix aesthetic, but I feel like the Matrix isn't a big enough name now to really draw in. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I can't remember how Resurrections did in theaters, but it was a day and date release, like it was HBO Max on the same day, so the numbers are going to be skewed anyways. But interesting that they're really going to go with a Matrix 5 over developing original IP at Warner Brothers. Like, you just signed Timothée Chalamet and Tom Cruise to original picture deals, and you're going to go back to the Matrix? Like, come on, man. It's super meta to how the Resurrections even references Warner Brothers in the movie itself. But anyways, last piece of news for this week. Supergirl movie finds its directors with Craig Gillespie, who directed I, Tonya, a movie I seriously loved, and Cruella, which I've seen and I enjoyed. I thought it wasn't bad. It was like a Joker, but not complete dog shit. It's looking like he's going to be directing the project. He hasn't written the script. It was another writer. She wrote it, but he's going to be directing it. I think this is a really good choice. If it has the energy and feel of I, Tonya, or even Cruella, I guess, I think that's really good, and that's really promising. James Gunn, I think he's playing very smart with DC. It looks like they're really going for quality over quantity. We're not getting too much leaks and news or rushing projects or, rushing it up the pipeline with no director attached. It's like they're really developing stage by stage with every project, which I think is just a great strategy for the start of a shared universe. And who knows, maybe the films all won't overlap like crazy. Like, you need to remember every detail from the other movies, but I'm just really enjoying the kind of step-by-step process we're getting with DC so far with James Gunn in charge. So I think he's a good choice. He's done lots of different stuff. I was looking at his IMDb the other day, and he's done like even music videos, I think, or like, I don't know, documentaries and stuff like that, commercials, whatever. But he's done I, Tonya, I thought was fantastic. I've seen that movie multiple times and really love it. If it's that kind of energy, and if we get an I, Tonya type Supergirl movie, I will absolutely love it. So I'm looking forward to that. All right. I think that does it for the news this week. Gracie, nothing else you want to add? No, she's looking at me very confused. Apologies. I just got an email about having to do workplace harassment. Okay, yeah. I'm not in trouble at work. We have to do it every year or every 2 years. It's just a mandatory course. It's a certificate. It's good. It's good. You need like a thing. But anyways, let's get into the review of the week. We're going to talk Monkey Man. Monkey Man, the 2024 action thriller, 2 hours long, currently has 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, 72% on Metacritic, well 71 now, 7.4 out of 10 on IMDb. Its budget was $10 million according to Google. It's directed by Dev Patel, and it's his first time directing a feature film. Produced by Dev Patel, Jordan Peele, and many more, but Jordan Peele is really the big one. He's been doing a great job really pushing for this film. Distributed by Universal Pictures. The synopsis is, a young man ekes out a meager living in an underground fight club where, night after night, wearing a gorilla mask, he's beaten bloody by more popular fighters for cash. After years of suppressed rage, he rediscovers a way to infiltrate the enclave of the city's sinister elite. As his childhood trauma boils over, his mysteriously scarred hands unleash an explosive campaign of retribution to settle the score with the men who took everything from him. And oh cool, Google has in a nutshell how to summarize movies: gutsy, intense, and cathartic. I would agree. That's all three of those really do apply to this movie. So it's written by Dev Patel, Paul Angunwala, and John Cawley. Dev Patel not only directs it, not only stars in it, but he was part of the scriptwriting process. Stars Dev Patel himself as Kid, Sharlto Copley as Tiger, Pito Bash as Alfonso, Verpin Sharma as Alpha, Sikander Kaur as Rana, Adithi Kalkunte as Neela, Sobita Dulipala as Sita, Ashwini Kalaskar as Queenie, and Makran Deshpande as Baba Shakti. So, of course, as always, there's timestamps in the description. I'm going to start with non-spoilers, and then I will let you know when I get into spoilers. So, immediately, overall, a really fun movie, really enjoyable. It's gutsy, it's raw, it's really in your face, and there's really, for me, in this movie, there's two parts. The first hour and second hour are very distinguished, and in spoilers, I'll explain what changes, obviously, but the first hour, super high energy, it's frantic, you feel like you're going 1,000,000,000 miles per hour, sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a very bad way. And I just want to get this out of the way. For a first time directing a feature film, bravo to Dev Patel. I think he really had a task on his hands. In a world where we have 4 John Wick movies, which all have phenomenal action. We have, Korea has amazing action movies. There's amazing action movies all over the world. This movie is like a gateway drug to more international action films. Dev Patel, his directing in this is awesome. I think there's some really great camera work. There's some really bad camera work. There's some great fights and there's some, forgettable ones. And I really enjoyed the first time outing for Dev Patel. I think he's kind of figuring it out and finding his voice as a director in this film. Look, I gave this a 4 out of 5. Overall, it's very generic, kind of. It does feel very familiar in points, and by the end, you kind of know where it's going, and that, sometimes that's not a bad thing for a movie. Movies can be familiar and still be really enjoyable, and that's what I would say about this. This is a movie I would totally recommend you go to a theater and see this, because on the big screen, it whoops your ass. It was so much fun to watch, but also it's the emotional core of this movie is really great. At the end of the day, it's about a mother and a son and trauma and letting go of pain and getting out of kind of your own way. And I really liked it. I've been looking forward to Monkey Man for a while, and it did not let me down. It certainly met my expectations. It didn't blow me away. Like I said, we're in a world where there's 4 John Wick movies, and I think the action and choreography in those films, well, that's unfair. They're very different. There's lots of gun and weaponry choreography in the John Wick films, where this is a lot more martial arts, and I actually really enjoyed that. This does feel like a little bit of, if you told me this is in the John Wick universe, I would totally believe you, because it's nightclubs, it's, fast cut fighting, it's raw, long scenes of fight sequences. But if you told me this is in the John Wick universe, I would believe you. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that's actually very flattering to this movie, that people would believe that the people who are making the quality John Wick movies also made this movie. And that speaks to, I think, Dev Patel's maybe natural skills as a director, because this movie overall, for a first assignment, this is like an A-, B+. This is still a very good, 8 out of 10, 4 out of 5 type thing. It's not perfect. There's certainly flaws, but I would be lying if I said I didn't have so much fun watching it. And I think I will watch this again. I don't know if it'll be in theaters, but definitely when this is out on streaming or available on Blu-ray, I would buy it. I would totally watch it, because it's an enjoyable action movie. It's 2 hours long, like I said. It blows by. When it ended, I was like, holy shit, it's over. I could watch another 30 minutes of this, because I was just starting to really get into it. But in spoilers, I'll explain more about the story beats in spoilers, but the action's really good. The performances are really great in this. I think Dev Patel as the titular character, he uses the kind of the code name Bobby, but he's kind of Kid, I guess is his name, but he's the Monkey Man. He's really awesome in this. I think he's a badass in this movie, and he brings so much power to his role. And man, I could see halfway through the movie, I was like, you know what? I could see Dev Patel as James Bond. He's damn handsome. He's tall. He's fit. He's good with, guns and fighting action. He's British. I mean, he has an Indian accent in the film, but he's actually British in real life and has a British accent. He could be damn suave as James Bond, and I endorse it. This is my official vote for Dev Patel as James Bond, because I think he would absolutely nail it, and he's young, so he could play it for a long time. He's really great. There's a lot of actually funny moments in this film. I mean, his sidekick, what's his name? Alfonso, was actually really funny in the film, and Tiger from Tiger Temple, where he's fighting every night when we meet him in the story, story. He's really funny. That's Sharlto Copley, the South African actor. Really funny in this film as well. It's like a lot of great action movies, it has moments of levity and actually really great comedic moments, which I super enjoyed. This was a really fun movie, and I'm gonna get into the flaws. They're nitpicks, kind of, not really though. They are structural things about the actual pacing and the script itself and kind of the story beats. Like I said, the story itself, like, you're gonna watch it and it's gonna feel very familiar, and I feel like 9 out of 10 people could probably predict where the film is going and like what's gonna happen, or at least how it ends up, and you would be right. The first half, the pace is unrelenting, and I think the editing in the first half is a little bit rough, and in some ways his fighting in the first half and second half, his character kind of reflects the quality of the film that's happening. It's very messy. There's lots of like missed cuts, and it's like, it feels very mismatched at times and kind of just all jumbled together. But then the second half is such an enjoyable and smooth ride. I really enjoyed the second half of this movie. The first half, I was still having fun and enjoying it, but there was times where I'm like, oh my god, my head is spinning. This is moving so quick, and it feels super over the top pacey, and it's like, can we just take a breather and like, maybe just like 8 less cuts in every fight sequence. It can feel a little bit too much like a John Wick movie at times. Like there is some great original parts of this. Like I think the whole story, and this isn't spoilers, it's all in the trailer if you watch it. It's about the elections in India and like this prophet dude and stuff like that, and this is a revenge story for his mother who was killed, and their land was taken and his home was burnt down. So that separates, the revenge story is all too familiar. It's like John Wick's dog. It's a revenge story, and the action sequences, they're in a nightclub, there's EDM playing, it's kind of like, okay, this is exactly like John Wick. But I think the cultural aspects and the diversity of this story are really great, and I really love what they did with this and the visibility that this story is bringing. I think that's where it really sets it apart from John Wick. I really enjoy the cultural aspects of this, and it's speaking to, modern day India and the political sphere, but also, I had no clue, but I didn't know this into this movie, but this is actually a great film for trans visibility and like trans representation, and it really speaks to, gender-based violence and violence against transgender people and their outcasting in political systems, and I was really surprised. I was like, holy shit, this is actually a great story, and it's just really cool representation to see on screen. And like Dev Patel kind of becomes this warrior for, this is an underdog story. Like he said in every interview, this is an underdog story, and he is fighting for all the outcasts, all the minorities that are pushed to the side and told they don't have an equal voice. You aren't part of society, and it's not in like a Joker way of like, we live in a society, blah, 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 you're pushing on the little guy. This is like, it feels very authentic and feels very natural in this story. And I absolutely loved it. And I love the messaging behind this story. Not just talking about, oh, Gracie has something to say. Yes. Okay, never mind. She got stage fright. I think there's absolutely phenomenal messaging in this about the political systems and having an equal voice for everyone and augmenting certain voices, but also just the emotional core of this movie with Dev Patel and his mother and him overcoming the trauma is just really what makes it work. And I couldn't recommend this movie enough. If you want a fairly simple, straightforward action movie to just go and watch, you'll enjoy it. 2 hours long. It's fast. You can have some popcorn, enjoy it. This is absolutely the movie for you. If you don't want to spend 3 hours at the theater because you can't stand long movies for some reason, if you're Millie Bobby Brown and can't watch movies because you don't have the attention, like she said, this would be a good movie for you because it's 2 hours long and super quick, and the pacing really helps, although it's very frantic at times, the pacing, and feels a little bit over the top. The first few fight scenes feel, other than the Tiger Temple at the start, the first few fight scenes can feel a little messy, and that also goes with his fighting style as well, the character himself, but it feels a little bit messy. And like I said, I think Dev Patel kind of finds himself as a director throughout the story. I think I'm just going to go into spoilers now. That was my non-spoiler section. Overall, how would I summarize non-spoilers? It has, I think the first hour is where the flaws really show in this film, and kind of the establishing of the world and the pacing of the story and interspersing of certain character moments. It doesn't work at times, but the second hour, I think Dev Patel really finds his feet as a director, and the writing gets a lot better in the second half, and the ending particularly. So first half, it can feel a little frantic and scared at times and a little jumbled, but it's still so enjoyable. If you want a really great original story to go and watch, a solid action movie you can enjoy, I totally recommend Monkey Man. But let's get into spoilers. So his origin of how his mother was murdered and the fact that there's this like I'm not sure what he is, but anyways, the political system is endorsed by like this like prophet dude, and he's the one that ordered he declared Dev Patel's where he lives like a holy land. So basically the police come, kick him and his family and everyone else out. They burn down the village kinda to make a factory there, and he calls his factory workers his disciples or whatever. But a really great story. Like, it's actually very accurate to the times we're living in, and that's what I really loved about this. I was like, this feels actually very grounded in our own world. It's not like a secret society like John Wick or in the Continental and stuff like that, where it's like, come on, is this really happening? Is this possible? I mean, it's a movie, but this feels much more cemented in our world overall. So the first half, I was saying the first half, the pacing can feel a little odd, and that's because I think there's a little bit too much of his origin story and the flashback to what happened with his mother interspersed in the first hour. I think there's a few too many cuts where I'm trying to find my footing in the story and really get to know him. And it's clear he has trauma, but I think there's just a couple of times where it flashes back that they maybe could have left that out, because it feels like we're being constantly yanked away from what's happening in the present day. But I think the idea of putting his origin story throughout the first hour until he dies and falls into the water and is found by basically this trans community, and he becomes like their warrior. So it's kind of a Robin Hood story in a way. It is kind of a Robin Hood movie, which I really liked. Like I said, the DNA and the fabric of the story is kind of familiar. It's kind of a generic story, but the way it does it and kind of revolutionizes it in parts is really cool. But yeah, so there's lots of flashbacks in the first hour, and then once he dies and he goes to this temple, he takes kind of this spice stuff, and it's basically only warriors and strong people can survive this, so he takes it. That's when we get the full flashback to that night where his mother was murdered. And he has these chemical burns on his hands, or he says they're chemical burns. So it's not clear where the burns come from. Clearly something happened to his hands. But anyways, that night, I think it's a really well done flashback. We finally get like the full solution of where all of his pain comes from. And a really cool, the idea of his origin being put out through the first half of the film, and then this revolution, this full reveal, part of me, of, once he dies and we see it, and then we finally get the full scene. I really like the idea. It's just the execution isn't done flawlessly. I don't think it really sticks the landing, but we get the flashback, and that night the cop who's kind of the big baddie, or the second big baddie of the story, Rasha, I think is his name. He's the one who killed his mother, and he kind of sexually assaults her, or it looks like he's about to, but then they all have to leave the police or whatever, so he just he basically beats her up and he abuses her, and then they pour gasoline on her, and she's burning, and he's Dev Patel's character's upstairs. He's a child at this point because it's a flashback. He's upstairs, he runs down, and how he got the burns on his hands was trying to save his mother, and he lit his hands on fire basically. So he has these really bad burns on the palm of his hands, and it's just all from him trying to save his mother. And it's just I think the flashback, like once we finally get the payoff, it's a very emotional scene, but it was kind of put through, or it was kind of revealed a little bit too much in the first half for the full emotional effect of the flashback. I feel like if they did it a couple less times and just hinted at what was happening, it would have been like a really big mic drop of a flashback, but I still think it works great, and the script itself has a lot of like good ideas of this is just a really great like origin story, and if we did get another one, I wouldn't be shocked. But that being said, the ending of the film, it's left on an open like cliffhanger basically, whether he dies or he lives, because he finds the prophet dude at the top. It's kind of cool. It's like him fighting through this nightclub of multiple levels, and he finally gets to this kind of prophet dude whatever's room, and so the monkey man gets stabbed and he's like bleeding out, but then he pulls what he gets stabbed with, like a nail or a screw type thing, and then the kill is absolutely gruesome. He kills the prophet dude, and the final scene or last minute is just him chasing his mother through the forest, and it's really beautifully done. It's him just laughing with his mother, and it's unclear, like, is he just seeing this, or has he kind of gone to the afterlife to be with his mother again as a child? And yeah, so the end of the movie, it just like cuts to black, and it's not declared whether he's dead or alive. And I actually really enjoyed that ending. I didn't need it to be explained to me. It was a swift 2-hour film. I really enjoyed the open ending because it just leaves it to your imagination, and it actually felt earned. I felt like it wasn't a cop out. It wasn't they ran out of ideas and we'll just leave it. It was actually a very creative ending that I enjoyed, because the core of this story is a revenge story, and it's about a mother and son and the love of a mother and a son. And I really love that. I think the emotional beats of the story are really great, and the emotional heart of the story is what makes it tick. And I really love that ending, that it's, he's either he has peace from killing this prophet who is responsible for the death of his mother. Either he has found peace and he can let his mother go, and that's why he's seeing this vision, or he has died after, fulfilling his revenge arc. He has died and he is now reunited with his mother in the afterlife. Either way, I'm pleased, and he's found peace. So it's a happy ending no matter what, because he got his revenge. And I think that's what really works about the ending, is like either way you're kind of satisfied. And if people are unsatisfied with the ending, I don't really see why. Like, you don't need it explained, because either way it's a win-win. But the overall kind of origin story being flashed throughout is, interesting idea. I think the first half of the movie is all about him being pretty much a bad fighter and trying to do like espionage and infiltrate this organization that is kind of like underground mafia government run. And it's him trying to initially get revenge, and it doesn't work out because he dies. He's found by these outcasts who are having a lot of, violence inflicted upon them, and they're being pushed away by the political system, and they save him. He pulls through. He takes this spice. He becomes the monkey man, and it's a really cool like spiritual scene. And there's actually really like when he's kind of discovering his footing and getting his powers and his strength back, and they're all just watching him beat a boxing bag or whatever it's called, shirtless. And it's like, damn, Dev Patel, you're director and writer, and you put this all in because people want to see this. So kudos to him. Yeah, the kind of resurgence. I mean, this whole movie is really just the hero's cycle. Like it is the hero's cycle by whatever that guy's name was. He has to lose something before he can have victory. So he gets these powers, and he just starts wailing on this boxing bag, and it's a really cool scene. And then he comes back, and he's swankier than ever. He goes back to the Tiger Temple where he was fighting every night at the start of the movie, just getting his ass handed. And it's kind of this it's actually a really funny scene where he's getting hyped to fight the guy that usually beats him in the third round every night, and we're kind of anticipating it's going to be this big fight. He's gonna have to really fight for it. Nope. In like 1 second, he just kicks the dude in the head, KOs him, and everyone goes silent in the theater or like the boxing arena or whatever. And it is so funny. It is actually a really great comedic scene. And then he fights this like 8-foot dude after, and that's like a super hard scene where he almost dies. It was awesome. It was really good. And then he gets his money, and everyone starts chanting Monkey Man, and that shit was sick. I really like that. There's a lot of cool moments in this movie where, you want to go to an action movie and there's just like cool action shit. Like, you go to Top Gun Maverick, you want to see him fly some planes dangerously, like he does the Valley Run and shows all the recruits how to do it. John Wick, you want to see him just, shooting people and smacking the shit out of everyone. And this is the same. Like, this is way less shooting. Like I said, in John Wick, it's not really gun focused. It's more martial arts. And there's some absolutely dope martial arts in this. And, John Wick, one thing I really like about the John Wick movies is the mixture of like nightclub music and the score of the film itself, using all this different EDM. And there's one really great in the second half of the movie. They have the Swedish House Mafia. Here, wait, let me pull it up on Spotify. I won't play it in case there's copyright issues, but Red Light by Swedish House Mafia. They use that in the film, and actually it goes so hard. I was like, oh yeah, we are so back. This is awesome. And I think that's actually the scene where I was like, damn, Dev Patel, he could be James Bond. He's so swanky. He's in a suit. He's just beating the crap out of guys, and it was dope. I loved it. I was like, I could just watch like stuff like this for hours. Yeah, really great soundtrack to this overall, actually. I really enjoyed kind of the sound of the film itself, like all the punches, it didn't feel cheesy or fake at all. It actually felt kind of very grounded. Some of the blood, it's like, okay, that's clearly just like, fake. It's fake blood. You can totally tell it's way too red or whatever it is. Like, but overall, yeah, a really great executed film. And like, it actually has a couple of gruesome kills. There's one kill in this film where he stabs someone in the neck and then they grab his arm so he can't reach the knife and push it anymore. So he corners them in an elevator and puts his teeth, like he bites down on the knife that's in their neck and pushes in with his teeth. And it's, oh my God, it is one of the most gruesome kills I have actually seen in a while. Like that was pretty brutal. I mean, John Wick has some really gross kills, and this one I was like, bravo, Dev Patel, you guys, you have made competition for Keanu and all of his peeps. And the are they called tuk-tuks or what are they? I can't remember. Like they're like the small carts that people drive in the street. Well, this is in the trailer as well, but they basically have like a Need for Speed version of it, and there's actually good chase scenes in this film where they're driving the tuk-tuk. What's it called? I can't remember right now. But anyways, someone let me know on Instagram or email in, please. Let me know what I'm thinking of. But anyways, yeah, they have like this 6-gear high speed 4-wheel drive. Like it's like a Lamborghini of little things. It's so cool and it's so dope. And that's where Alfonso, his sidekick, that's his. And it's actually there's a really funny joke that he calls it Nicki Minaj because it's big bumper, nice headlights, and that was funny. It was stupid, like such a dad joke, but it was hilarious. Like I said, there's a lot of good comedy in this movie that I really enjoyed. So the script has a good variety of types of moments. It has emotional, grounded, like just mother-son simple moments. It has intense action sequences that feel like they're building towards something. Has great moments of levity, but it also has kind of messy pacing at times where there's a few kinks that they needed to work out, I think, before, but it's still an overall well done film. It may not be perfect, but it's still very enjoyable. And I wonder what's next. Is Dev Patel now going to really double down on action films? Because I know Aaron Taylor Johnson, it's said that he's gotten an offer for James Bond, but I'm actually really curious why it's not Dev Patel, because he's charming. He's so like well spoken and carries himself in such a I don't know, just a very like suave way, just in that James Bond manner that like Daniel Craig talks in real life and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it. Like he just like comes off as a very gentleman smooth type thing. So I would love if Dev Patel got this, and we haven't in a while, but I'm actually going to read a few Letterboxd reviews from Monkey Man. First one, 4 stars. Dev Patel went absolutely bananas with this one. There's a lot of banana puns in these because it's Monkey Man. So yeah, and that's good though. Dev Patel went absolutely bananas with this one. That's good. 3 stars. Dev Patel plays a pretty decent John Wick. I mean, yeah, I get why some people would probably not like this movie because it does feel kind of carbon copy John Wick, but just like, again, it could just be a spin-off. But I actually, they even name drop John Wick in the movie. Like Dev Patel's character is buying a gun and the guy's like, oh, you like the John Wick movies? This is the one that they used, and he pulls a gun that John Wick uses. And I was like, oh my God, this is so insanely meta right now. Like they're not trying to be a copy of John Wick because they're willing to name him in the film, like it's kind of a tip of the hat to me, but I could totally see why people wouldn't like it. 4 stars. He went bananas. Monkey business. Monkey puns. You better hold on tight, spider monkey. Okay. 3 stars. Sure, babe. We can have sex, but my monkey mask stays on. Dash a line in the movie or something. Dear God. There's actually, there's a lot of good praise on here, and I think it's thoroughly deserved because for like a first time directing a feature film, I mean, look, Dev Patel is not a new actor. He's not like, this is not his second film he's ever worked on. He was literally like a child actor. He was in, I think it's called Skins, which was like kind of a British version of Freaks and Geeks, if I'm not mistaken. He's been around the block. He's been working for a long time. He's a very respected actor. So this is really nice that he kind of gets to just have his own voice put on screen. 3.5 stars. It's solidly stylish, but I wish it committed to being an action movie beyond just a couple of set pieces. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe they filmed this during COVID, but I know many times Dev Patel has spoken about how like close it was to not being made because they ran out of money. Netflix, I think, dropped this film and it got picked up by maybe Universal or someone else. Also, Dev Patel like broke his hand, ribs, maybe a foot or something like that. He says at one point in the movie there's a very noticeable change of what hand he's using to fight, and that's because he had a broken hand in real life, which total respect to him. And like there's no clear scenes where you're like, oh, that's gotta be a a stunt double. It's like, oh, that's Dev Patel. The whole time you're thinking that is Dev Patel, and he is just getting his ass whooped sometimes. I mean, he gets stabbed like 4 times. I know it's fake, but it looks painful as hell. But he also just gets kicked and, punched and thrown over buildings and hit by cars. He crashes cars. Like, oh man, there's a real physical exertion to this film that you feel even as a viewer. Like, I was tired watching this movie, and not because I was bored. I was like, this is painful to watch because he's just getting the shit kicked out of him. 3.5 stars. Could have used more Monkey Man. I agree. The mask and the whole idea of Monkey Man is kind of pointless because it's just who he is fighting in the ring. And on the night that he's going to do the massive assault and revenge comeback story, the second half of the movie, he walks up to the nightclub in the mask and they're like, hey, where are you going? And he just takes the mask off and throws it away, and we never see it again in the film. And I was kind of bummed about that. I was like, oh man, you could have wore the mask 5 more minutes. You look dope in it. There's a really cool part in the film where he takes the mask, dips it in a bucket of paint or something like that, and he turns the white the mask white from grayish black like it was before, and that was such a great visual. I loved that, and that definitely, it felt very Green Knight, which is another film Dev Patel did, which I really did not like that movie. I felt it was very messy, but I still like Dev Patel in it. But that type of shot felt very Green Knight oriented, and I enjoyed that. I think that's a beautifully shot movie, but I just think the story doesn't work. But this was really cool, and I would agree with that. I wouldn't say 3.5 stars, but I would say definitely there could have been more, the persona of Monkey Man, because we're kind of just getting Dev Patel fighting most of the time. Whereas if he's going to be this vigilante Monkey Man, it would have been cool if he kept the mask on for a lot of the revenge in the building, which I enjoyed, but it just would have been really cool if we had a hero type figure. He's living the legend of that monkey. 4-star. Dev Patel said ACAB. He said trans rights. He said crack the skulls of corrupt leaders. I said that's hot. Like I said, this is actually a very I hate this word, but progressive, because that feels like such an old term. But it's actually a very diverse, and it has a lot of great representation in the film. And shout out to Dev Patel. Hold on, I'm gonna find this interview that he gave the other day where someone was like, hey man, this is actually a cool film for trans rights, and he spoke about it. Yeah, Dev Patel, he called the film an anthem for the underdog. There's an article from Screen Rant, why Monkey Man's trans representation is vital to the film. So vital to kind of the anthem of the underdogs. Patel felt it was important to include the Hijra community, otherwise known as the third gender in India. So that's and apologies for me kind of simplifying them as transgender community, but that's kind of what I've seen online, and a lot of people saying oh, it's really cool, but I know they have a more specific name now. And he said, for me, this is an anthem for the underdogs, the voiceless and the marginalized. Together they wage this war for the good and the just, and for me, I really wanted to include the Hijra community, the third gender in India. We should be fighting for each other, not against each other. Damn, dude, Dev Patel rocks. Yeah, just really good. And at first, when the movie finished, I was like, that was enjoyable, but I think I was still a little bit lost in the kind of messiness of the pacing in the first half. But as kind of an hour, it finished at midnight, but even when I got home half an hour later, I was like, damn, that movie was fun. And now today, I'm looking back on it even more fondly of yeah, that rocked, and that just feels like such a simple, not simple in a bad way, but it just feels like a nice kind of straightforward action movie that you could throw on. It's 2 hours. This is a very rewatchable movie is what I would say. And I think I'll end the review there. Overall, 4 out of 5 stars for me. I would totally recommend you go see this, especially in theaters. It has a great soundtrack, really well shot, other than some messy directing in times, but Dev Patel, very well done. I'm so happy Jordan Peele really stuck his neck out for him and pushed him to, be his own voice as a director. Absolutely loved it. That was Monkey Man. So what else did I watch this week? Well, Survivor 46. We had the second episode without Banu, and this week was all about Venus the Villain, my fellow Canadian on that show. And I think watching the show this week and seeing all the cast members online, it really does show the messiness of reality television interfering with the real world these days, that a lot of these people delete their social media as the show is on because they get so much hate mail, like Soda, who's on this season. She deleted her Twitter because people were just harassing her. And there's one cast member, Venus, who's very antagonistic this year, but I like her. She is kind of a villain on the show, and she's trying to mix it up and not just be so kumbaya like everyone is on Survivor. But a lot of her fans kind of terrorize the other castmates' social medias, and like Charlie, this one, he seems like a really nice guy that's on the show this year. Someone faked like Instagram direct messages that he was asking their age and they were like way younger than him, and he's like, oh, I don't mind my relationships on the rocks, and it was all fake. And he posted it at 1 a.m. last night being like, I can't believe I'm having to do this. Like, we're real people on the show, we're not made up, like you're actually messing with my life. And Venus like reposted it as well being like, guys, I get that like it looks like on the show we're all against each other, but in real life we all actually have, you know, lives that we need to go on with, and you can't let television and reality television get in the way of people's real lives. So kind of scary. I've been wanting to for a few months apply to Survivor and have like kind of committed to it, but just stuff like that and seeing statements talking about how Survivor specifically ruined their lives, or just reality television. I feel like it's unfair to be Survivor because it's reality television can just really ruin people's lives, I think, because, you know, everyone sees them that way, or you can get a bad edit on a show. Anyways, it was a really great episode. Mariah went home, and I think it was a good move. They probably should have voted Charlie because he has more alliance connections, and if they wanted to vote out a Siga member to keep kind of the numbers, you know, not in Siga's favor for Yanu and Nami, I feel like a Siga member like Charlie was the perfect bait because he wasn't safe. But anyways, Mariah went home. It was a good episode overall, very entertaining. I also watched Shogun episode 6, which I feel like was the most actionless episode, but it was more emotional and a very thrilling episode. I'm loving Shogun so far. I couldn't recommend it enough. I also watched Curb Your Enthusiasm. It was the second last episode, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's the second last one, and this Sunday is the finale. I am absolutely depressed. I don't know what I'm going to do without Curb Your Enthusiasm. It was so good. Curb, I've really enjoyed this year. I know it's not for everyone, and lots of people have complained that the new episodes aren't as good, but I find them just as good as the old ones. And I really like the overall story of the entire season in this one. So that's what I've been watching this week. I'm pretty sure it was the Invincible finale this week, even though we've only had, 3 episodes since the mid-season break. So, what the hell? It's over already, and now we're not going to see season 3 for 8 years or something? I don't know. It's whatever. Actually, after this, I'm going to watch X-Men episode 4, and tonight I'm actually watching Heat because I'm home alone. I'm like, me and the dog, we're just going to watch Heat. 2 hours and 50 minutes of awesome Michael Mann filmmaking. I think that about does it for episode 12, guys. Happy Friday, happy Monday for you guys. I'm preparing myself for the next step in life of being a post-grad student, being part of just the work life and whatever. Thank you so much for listening again. I've started social media for the show. I've started an Instagram page where I'm usually posting every day. It's Watcher of All Things. You can find it on Instagram. Follow it. You can get in touch with me if you have ideas about the show or if you have questions or stuff you want to say about the episodes. I also made a TikTok where I'm going to post kind of shorter reviews after I see things or watch things. It's watcher.of.all.things. You can find it on TikTok. If you just look up the name Watcher of All Things, it'll pop up. Same with Instagram. If you can, please rate and review the show. 5 stars certainly helps. It helps grow the show when you rate and review it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Acast. You can find it on all those platforms. Rate and review it 5 stars. It absolutely helps, and you can download it every Monday. Follow the podcast. It'll show up in your episodes every Monday whenever there's a new release. You can subscribe, and why not leave a comment on the YouTube page, Watcher of All Things. I put all my episodes there as well in case you don't use streaming platforms or something like that. It's on YouTube. Why not leave a comment on what you think of Monkey Man if you saw it this weekend? What's your favorite reality show? What do you think about kind of the duality of being a reality show contestant and how that affects your real life? I don't know. What do you think of all the news we went through today? Dune Part 3 or Dune 3, Dune Messiah. Are you reading the books? What do you think? Should you read books before you see the movies or vice versa? You can also email the show, watcherofallthings@gmail.com. Get in touch with me. Maybe I'll read your email on the show of what you think of the episodes, of your ideas, or if you have questions, I can answer them. Next week, we're talking Alex Garland's Civil War. I'm seeing it in IMAX Thursday night. Cannot wait. I think it looks really promising. As an early Kirsten Dunst fan, I'm pumped for it. So again, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Thank you for listening again. Share this podcast. Get your friends to listen to it. Why not? Let's grow this thing. I'm really just having so much fun. I mean, I've enjoyed it from day one where there was literally, I didn't tell anyone about it, to today where I'm making it very public and trying to get people to listen because I enjoy the insight. So thank you so much for listening. Have a great week. Happy Monday, and I will see you in the next one.